awfully generous introduction, but when Lewis told me that I was to give the keynote, he didn't tell me I was following a preacher. I think we've already heard the keynote, but I'll give you a quick update about some of the work I'm doing and my belief in you. Really, I think it's also remarkable to have such a strong showing of our local elected officials here. It speaks well of them that they care about what you're doing, and it speaks well of you that they think the work you're doing is sufficiently important that they're here. So I salute those. I see Judge Brown has come in, also Judge Andy Brown. He does such a great job administering the bill. Libby and I are here, and I'm going to ask her to say a word or two also, really just to express our thanks to you, to affirm our continuing commitment to you, and to salute your theme for this year, Equity Begins Voice. Our commitment to public education is really very personal. I'm a product of the Austin Public Schools. Both of our daughters are products of the Austin Public Schools. In fact, one is a graduate of Zavala and Martin and my alma mater, Austin High. That's my daughter, Kathy, who's here with us today. And Kathy, who taught in elementary school here for a while, continues to work with a number of school districts around the area professionally on early education programs. The rally that Alan mentioned 13 years ago was one I was there with you at, and I want to salute the years of dedication. You were heading the St. John's Association then and working with St. John's and Pickle and Dobie, and I think it's great that through these years you have dedicated yourself to this organization and to public schools all over our state. And of course, Lewis, that is telling me it's time to confirm my reservation on Southwest for tomorrow's flight to Washington. Lily's got the same one, so check in or we'll be in C. I know that Austin Voices has been around for even a little longer than that, a couple of decades, and that you continue to make such a difference for people. I believe that our schools are about much more than academics, and the nature of your work, whether it's food or health, is very important. But our schools are about binding our neighborhoods and our communities together. You see it at a school carnival, at a back-to-school event. You see it at an athletic contest. It's about so much more than just quality academics to prepare people for the rest of their life. It's about preparing them to be active and concerned and committed citizens in this community. As a young state legislator and then later on the Texas State Supreme Court, where I worked for 6 years, I had an opportunity to try to overcome some of the inequities that are in our public education system here in Texas. And here in Congress for the last several decades, I've been all about trying to see some federal funding to back up our local schools, and particularly of late during the pandemic to prevent Governor Abbott from diverting the funds that we allocated for public schools to actually get to the schools. On the floor of Congress, I've heard our public schools derided as, quote, government schools. I don't have anything against private schools or Christian schools. We just heard a great expression of Christian values from our keynote speaker, whose words are as true today as they were when they were delivered 11 years ago. But I just don't want my tax money put into those schools when we won't adequately fund our public schools. I feel that Governor Abbott's efforts, first in the legislature, to deny teacher pay raises, to deny adequate funding for schools unless he got his voucher program, was really appalling. The money was there to pay the teachers more, to help our schools get out of the bind that their budget bind they are in, and it wasn't provided. And now he continues that effort. I just read over the weekend spending over $6 million to defeat the handful of Republican state representatives who had the courage to join with all Democrats to stand up for our public schools. And so it is definitely time for our voices, for equity to result from our voices as all of us participate tomorrow in the primary and in November in the election. In recent years, I think that some of the groups that are out there making the most noise complaining about our public schools have benefited from the neglect that the state of Texas has shown in the underfunding. There is always something wrong that the public schools are responsible for, but they have not been accorded the resources that they need from the state of Texas to really be able to do all aspects of the job and be as innovative and creative as I know our school system, our great new superintendent, and Trustee Boswell, who's played such a big role, what you would like to do in offering new kinds of programs. And at the same time, it's being underfunded and efforts are being made to divert resources to private schools. We've got these new groups that come to disrupt our school board meetings, not as much here in Austin as in surrounding areas, some of the ones that I have represented in nearby in Williamson County, and some of them have even been elected to the school boards, I think mainly because they view them as government schools and they want to get rid of our public education system. These are the same folks that are out to empty our libraries. And we've got to push back to all of that. I will say that one major shortcoming I think that our schools have today is not doing enough to encourage civic engagement. I know there are many individual efforts being done by principals, by teachers, but we need much more. What's at stake is whether we will have a democracy in the future. And that it can begin at the elementary level with a presidential election and a Senate election coming up this year, where kids can come in and cast their first ballot in a nonpartisan election for whomever they want and learn a little bit about the process of democracy. And then, as Lynn and the superintendent know, one of my causes is to see that every student, when they get that birthday card for their 18th birthday, get registered to vote and are encouraged to vote. We need everybody to participate. And then I go back on that Southwest flight tomorrow to Washington. The efforts continue on the budget and efforts to cut education. There's no doubt. I've got some people I serve with who would eliminate all forms of federal education assistance from pre-K to post-grad. And there's one proposal that came up very much like the voucher proposal that we just had a heated debate on in the Ways and Means Committee to provide tax incentives to people to move their kids from public schools to private schools. I applaud the fact that Austin Voices is working with our Spanish-speaking population, with people, and here in Austin, so many Asian Americans who come to our schools to work with them to be able to be successful and really lead the way here in what we need to be doing in education for all. I also, as a part of civic engagement, would emphasize what I think is at stake this fall. It really is a question of whether or not we will abandon the democracy we've known and go to the kind of authoritarian government that Hungary and a number of other countries have. And it may seem strange at a nonpartisan event for a Democrat to tell you to believe Donald Trump, but I want to tell you, you need to believe the words that Donald Trump is saying. When he says he will be a dictator on day one, believe him. When he says he wants his generals to be more like Hitler's generals, believe him. When he says that he wants to expel every person who's undocumented in this country, including our dreamers, believe him. When he says he wants to eliminate the Affordable Care Act, believe what he's saying. That's what's at stake. And if those are your values, and I doubt they are the values of anyone in this room, go vote for him. But if not, get everyone you know to participate and make our democracy meaningful, or this may well be the last election of this type that we ever have here in America. I want to add much more about the work of Austin Voices, but I think one person to add and affirm some of that is the person who taught me all the way through law school as a bilingual first grade teacher over at Ortega, and went back between daughters, got her doctorate in early childhood, and served President Obama and the Department of Education as his advisor on early childhood education. And that's my wife, Libby. I'll invite her. I'll check in.
I'm checked in. I got A. Thank you, Lloyd. It's hard to follow Lloyd and the preacher, but I'm delighted to be here and to be with you, each of you, and the amazing work that you do. You know, you are way ahead of other groups. We have been talking about getting parents and educators and students out in front. You've been doing this, you know how to do this, you've done it so well, and it's really wonderful to be with a group that is on the cutting edge. I've been interested in community schools since Head Start was established in 1965. Ed Ziegler is called the father of Head Start. He was a friend of mine. He didn't actually establish it, but he was there from the very beginning. And Head Start very much has the same model as community schools. It's a program that's comprehensive. It provides nutrition, parent support. In fact, they have a parent advisory committee. Parents come together. Many parents end up working in Head Start because they become empowered through Head Start. Then Ed Ziegler came in, and this is in 1987, so it's a while ago, and started a movement called Schools of the 21st Century. Once again, it's exactly what you're doing, which is to provide schools as a hub and bring in the services, knowing that kids don't just need to learn to read and write. They need many other things, and it's so much better to do it there in the school. So those were my first two kind of entrees with community schools. And then I had the pleasure of working at the Institute for Educational Leadership. And their whole commitment is to develop and connect adults and youth leaders who strengthen communities and education systems in pursuit of equity. So I got to work there and got to know the staff and see the power of what they're doing across the nation. Like all of you here, you know, we believe public education is critical and that schools need to serve as hubs. Lloyd said it. I just want to reiterate it. We need much more going on in schools than just reading, writing, arithmetic. Obviously, I come from an early childhood background, talked a little bit about Head Start, but I would like to see more elementary schools encompassed in your work. I'd love to see, we have a child care crisis right now. We know that teachers need child care. We know that working women need child care, working men need child care. And the system is not going to work unless we as a community come together around it. Schools need to be partnering with our child care centers in a much more comprehensive way to make sure child care is strong, because those are our kids. If they get to us at 3 or 4 or 5, those are our kids, and we want to make sure that we're starting from the very beginning to make them strong. So I really want to applaud what you do and thank each of you every day for thinking of our kids and knowing that it's going to take a village. It's going to take all of us working together, and we all want to work together to make our schools stronger and better and assure that every child reaches his or her God-given potential. Thank you.